Happy Hanukkah, good evening. It's now the first night of Hanukkah. We lit the candle of Hanukkah tonight, the first night. HaNeiros Halu Kodesh, and these candles, they are holy. Every night of Hanukkah, we will be here on the Hidabroot channel for a special program with guest rabbis, songs, and good music. Together with me in our studio tonight is a dear friend of mine, Rabbi Gavriel Friedman. Rav Gav is an amazing rabbi. He's someone who's, I have to say, not that we would ever have competition, but this would be it if there was competition, because, I don't know, we got our guitars out here. We're two rocking rabbis, and thank God we've been tag teaming all over the globe, really. Even when I think we're both flying out. We're flying out tomorrow. And anyway, Rav Gav, just to tell you a little bit about him, he's been studying and teaching in various yeshivas and seminaries throughout Jerusalem for years. He's currently teaching at Eshet Torah in Jerusalem. His charisma captivates audiences of all ages, inspiring men and women from all over the world. He's just got a way to, translate Torah into 2017. Our sages established the 8 days of Hanukkah as days of song and praise. So here we are to celebrate together. So what do you say? Should we maybe pull out the guitars right at the beginning? You want to
pull out the axes?
Okay, let's make this happen. How about we start off with a little blues? Take a solo, guy. Some Al-Anisim. Let's pick it up a little. Let's really hook it up. Al hanisim ve'al hapokan ve'al agulat ve'al ha'chot ve'al ha'mechamot ve'al zitzalavotzeinu ba'yomim hazeh. You take it. Al hanisim ve'al hapokan ve'al agulat ve'al ha'chot ve'al ha'mechamot ve'al zitzalavotzeinu ba'yomim hazman hazeh. Oy al hanisim ve'al hapokan ve'al agulat ve'al ha'chot ve'al ha'mechamot ve'al zitzalavotzeinu ba'yomim hazman hazeh. Al hanisim ve'al hapokan ve'al agulat ve'al ha'chot ve'al ha'mechamot ve'al zitzalavotzeinu ba'yomim hazman hazeh.
Thank you with that blue.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, Rabbi, I got some questions for you, and this is time for interview.
Let's begin.
You ready?
I'm mic'd.
Okay, so let's do it. First of all, I want to ask you, what is the definition of spirituality in Judaism?
You ask a very big question. This is a very big question. Really, we need a whole show just on this question. I did hear from a great rabbi once, a great rabbi named Rabbi Glaser, about spirituality. Spiritual.
That's what I was thinking about.
Is putting the spirit into the ritual, spiritual. Yeah. Spirituality, very, very heavy topic, but it's quite light. It's spiritual, it's lofty, it's lofty. where a lot of people might think it's floating on some mountain, singing Kumbaya, and connecting to the elements. I can't say there's nothing to do with that. There's perhaps what to do with it. But the Jewish perspective, or at least one of the Jewish perspectives, is actually going to surprise some people, is the idea of what we would call Torah, mitzvos, ma'asim tovim. When a person is involved with connecting ultimately, the ultimate connection in this world, and the highest of the highest, connecting with the creator of the world. And the way in which we connect with the creator of the world is through his Torah, and through his mitzvos, through following his mitzvos, and through acts of good, beautiful, ma'asim tovim, good acts. When a person is involved in these ideas, raises the bar. And again, it's too much to talk about in one show, but that's the beginning. That's the beginning.
And how would you hook that up with Hanukkah right now?
So we're gonna develop into this a little bit.
You wanna?
Yeah, let's develop into it a little bit. But ruchnius, in essence, the concept of ruchnius, there is loosely translated as spirituality. Ruach being wind, something which flows freely all around us. It's right here.
Okay.
It's light. It's right there, but it lifts us. It uplifts us through the
Okay,
Torah.
so we can move back to that a little bit, or into it. But what I want to ask you now is about spirituality and physicality. Yeah. You know, it's pretty clear that there's in Judaism they are to coexist, and you know, what is that ideal balance? You know, the Greeks were kind of known for physical, the Jews were known for the spirit, and but really, are we just spirit without the physical, or are we spirit with the physical? Where are we holding? What's our balance as Jews?
I think if you look in front of us, we have a little bit of spirituality on a plate, is what we would call it. It's true. The Greeks would take physicality and focus almost entirely on physicality. Whereas the concept to say that Judaism focuses on spirituality is accurate. The misnomer is to think that spirituality and physicality are separate entities. The ideal goal of what we're trying to accomplish over here is to take physicality and to elevate it. The goal is, what is the physicality being used for? What's it being used for? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we have to be looking and seeing. We have ourselves two beautiful Taylor guitars over here. Doesn't get more physical than that. Two beautiful physical entities. But when you take it and you uplift it with al hanisim v'ala porka and v'ala gvuos v'ala chuos, so we've just taken these beautiful axes and we've lifted them up to kalim, vessels to be used in order to connect with Hashem. So the balance is the challenge is to know, what can I use my physicality for?
Right. So it is what's going on inside.
That's right. What's the goal? The internal, as we know, the classic difference between, if I can mess with these a little bit, they'll be upset at me if I do, but the classic difference between, you know, the physical and the spiritual, or as we would say, Greek culture and Judaism is the outside versus the inside. These donuts are filled. That's a Jewish donut right there.
They're filled.
They're filled.
Filled with meaning.
They're filled with meaning. As opposed to a non-Jewish donut, we call it, with a little hole in the middle.
Right. So they have a little hole, but they're filled.
That's right. Fill that thing up. Panemius.
So I have my next question has to do with the Greeks. Yeah. What was their problem with us? I mean, Jews are pretty cool. You know, what's the problem with the Greeks? Why'd they want to Hellenize us? Why'd they want us to become like them?
We're getting in the way. The Jewish people are getting in the way.
But they in general, when Greeks took over cultures, they let the culture do its thing. You know, as long as you ship us your bananas, Costa Rica, you know, you do your thing. So what was with the Jews? They couldn't take it.
They would let everybody do their thing as long as it wasn't impinging and imposing on what their thing was. Mm-hmm. The Greeks came along and the focus of physicality, the focus of the body, yaf elokim liyefes, that the whole idea was about beauty and externalities. In Judaism, we take beauty and externality. We don't throw that away. We have for sure focus on beauty. However, we take beauty and we elevate it by looking deeper inside. Not just the what, but the why. Let's understand the why.
What's their problem with that?
Oh, the problem
so leave them alone. Like, let them go for why with the what, not just the
That's
what.
right, that's right. So they would say like this, if it would just be like, okay, you got your thing, we have our thing, and let's just kind of coexist, that perhaps would be nice. The problem is, their mentality was only about the outside, and it's only about the kochi ve'otzim yodi osali yisachel zeh, as we say it in Devarim, Deuteronomy, that I have the power. It's up to me. There's nothing above us. There's nothing over there. We are in control of our lives. And to fathom that maybe we're not in control of our lives, that there could be something above us, it's too much to handle. Wow. And the Jewish people, we represent the fact that we're nothing. Wow. Without God, we're nothing. Wow. We're just a shell.
Amazing. If I can add that another aspect of it is they're controlling Israel. They were controlling Israel.
Yeah, everything.
And it's really hard to control people who have a connection to a being that says you're awesomely huge in that you're created in the image of God. And so, like, we're hard to control. Yeah. Jews are hard to control. Yeah. And I think that might have been also an aspect of like how do you keep these people down? You know, how do you keep these Jews down?
There was a story about somebody who wasn't sure if he was Jewish or not. So he went to go speak with somebody, a rabbi. He says, "Rabbi, am I Jewish?" He goes, "I don't know. Do you have any memories of being Jewish?" So he says, "Listen, I remember something." He goes, "What was it?" He said, "Do you have a Hebrew name?" He goes, "I remember I have a Hebrew name, I think, because I used to remember my grandmother when I was younger used to call me and she would say, Vilde Chaya." I think maybe that's my Hebrew name, wild animal. Not really, that's what he was saying. We're hard to contain.
Right.
We're above him, but we're trying to do stuff. We're trying to be, we're going big or go home. That's the goal here. And essentially they said, yeah, let's go big. Let's make coliseums and let's make bridges and let's make technology and science and all beautiful stuff. And for sure, we're pro that. We're pro that. It's beautiful. But we say, hey, come on, you think that's big? That's a facade. Let's go big, people. Wow. Let's get into the depth. Let's get into the molecules, the spiritual molecules of the existence that everything is, and that's God.
Right.
And when we go ahead and we say that there's something beyond just the physicality in the outside, there's something meaningful and deep, that's when there's got a problem, and that's when there's got to take us out.
Wow, amazing, amazing. The essence of the holiday is the miracle. You have the sealed flask, they found the flask of oil, and we don't focus so much on the victory. You know, we had this like massive victory where the few, you know, the priests of the temple fight this war, and we have this victory, the few against the many. Yet our focus is on this miracle of the candles.
What's going down?
Yeah, what's going down. I mean, this is like one of the greatest military turnarounds in history, and everyone's just focusing on a candle that burned for 8 days, which is an awesome miracle. But what do you got for that?
I mean, there was a great holy rabbi named Shalom Shvadron who would often discuss, I was speaking with a friend of mine on my way in here, he shared with me this story, that after the 6-day war here in Israel, there was a tremendous demand for tefillin. After the 6-day war, tremendous demand for tefillin.
Really?
And this is coming from the soldiers themselves, a demand that they couldn't supply. It was too much. The people were asking, we need tefillin, we need tefillin. And they didn't, why would they say that? Because they saw on the battlegrounds the miracles that were happening. They saw miracle after miracle. And just recently, in the past year, they just declassified certain article, what's the word for it? Declassified information that shows how miraculous it was. It was above and beyond.
How miraculous the 6-day war.
The 6-day war, what was happening in the 6-day war. Now, the 6-day war was miraculous, but I mean, seemingly a joke compared to the Greek army, what was going on.
Right.
Not really a joke. I mean, but the point is miraculous. And they saw it, and when they saw it, they're like, wow, tefillin. We got to do something about it. And Rav Shalom Shvadron would often tell the story to recognize what was going on, miraculous. But the reality is that being a soldier, what ends up happening is like this. What was the real miracle? The real miracle of Chanukah. The fact that a candle should light for 8 days is miraculous. It is. You should light it for a little bit. It should only have enough for 1 day and last for 8 days. That's miraculous. That's amazing. But the real miracle was the war. So why don't we focus on that so much? Answer is because we need to bring out the concept of miracles. We need to show there's something called the miracle. Person who's fighting, they go out to war, and they think to themselves, hey, Kochi v'atzim yadi once again. I did it. I have my guns, I have my planes, and they had that, right? They've gone, well, not really in times of Greek, right? But they have their weapons, they go out, they fight. And if you look historically, by the way, we say, Giborim be'ad chaloshim. We weren't weak. Who are the Maccabees? They were very strong people. They were smaller, that's for sure. But they were strong people. Okay, but what's the chances of them winning? Very minimal. But they won. But you know what? If you learn a little bit about the art of war, which I have not spent any time on, but from the little that I've seen, you can have times that the underdog will win. It happens that the underdog will win. The Yankees lose sometimes, believe it or not, even though they have all the money in the world to buy all their players. Enough of that. That's off my chest. But the point is that what we find is that the small can win. So you would think to yourself, oh, look at me. I won. Of course I won. I'm powerful. Therefore, we need to show something. Will anyone confuse a miracle of a candle lighting for 8 days? No, of course not. Everybody's going to know that's crazy. That's crazy. So once we take that, and we get that in our consciousness, then comes Nachmanides, the holy Ramban, and tells us, from the small miracles, you can then see what the bigger miracles were.
Really?
Small miracle of what? The small, in the Parshas Bo, very famous Ramban, the small miracle over here that we're relating this to is of the Pach Shemen. You have this that lasted for 8 days. But you know, it was a bigger miracle that we're able to even get up in the morning. They were able to lift up a sword. They were able to go ahead and fight. Every aspect of our lives is miraculous.
Wow.
We can bring that out. If we just talk about the war, people are like, okay, it could be they did it without God. You come out the fire, that's a miracle. You think that's a miracle? You ain't seen nothing, baby. You know what a miracle is? We can move our fingers and jam. That's a miracle.
Very nice, very nice. I imagine a lot of people are watching this on whatever, a screen. And it's and it could be that if they were adding up their 24 hours a day to figure out which part was Jewish and which part was Greek, what's the message you'd like to tell them of people whose lives have more or less become Western lives? Yeah. They're Westerners, and here we are, celebrating a victory over the Western values, and so many people are really steeped in Westernism. So what would you share with them?
I would say for the most part, people like to hear niceties and good things. So we talk about Hanukkah, the miracle, we won. Greeks lost, and the Jews won. I would, perhaps I'll be thrown into excommunication again for this, but I would perhaps suggest that, did they really win? Did the Jews really win? Did we really win? Take a look, what was their goals? Their goal was science, technology, the
Whose
body.
goals? The Greeks.
The Greeks' goal was technology.
Right.
And right now, like you mentioned, we are steeped in technology. So who won? It seems a little bit maybe that although Greek maybe lost, the Greece lost the battle. I don't want to say this, chas v'shalom, but
it looks like they won the war.
But who won the war?
Right.
And this goes back to the second question of how do we look at physicality and spirituality. So ultimately what it means is like this. Everyone has to be really honest with themselves and take a real look at themselves. Take a look at the man in the mirror, as some would say, and ask themselves one question.
I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
Anyway, a person has to take a look at themselves and say, am I Greek or am I Jewish? I think a colleague of ours, we know very well, Rabbi Moti Berger, would say the answer to that, for those who know he is. The answer is both. We're Greek and we're Jew. Mm-hmm. What that means to say is we have to ask ourselves constantly, are we raising our level of Jewishness or are we raising our level of Greece? To use technology, fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, as some would say, what's God's reason for the internet? To be able to be involved in Torah and mitzvos. I can use a term from someone else, right? That's God's reason for the internet. So what I'm saying to you, all my folks, my friends, as some would say, brothers and sisters out there, ask yourself a question. Is the technology owning you, or are you owning the technology?
Right.
Is the technology a means to an end, or is it means in and of itself? Greece would say it's a means to itself, it's the outer, that's all it is.
Right.
Yiddishkeit, Judaism would say it's a means to an end. Use your technology, but make sure you're using it properly. You're using it in order to be able to connect, to get not just to the what, but to the why. Get into the inside of the donut. You want to make sure that you get that fudge. You want that raspberry. Right. The outside is good, but the inside, my friend, is just delicious.
Beautiful. So it's not just the what's, it's the whys.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just the what's. That's right. You've got to get into the whys. And when you start doing the whys, then you become very wise, if I could be corny. Yeah.
Well, beautiful. Thank you so much, Rav Gav. You're awesome.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
May we work together for many, many years to come. And now we have a special message from our guest, Rabbi Dovid Goldwasser from New York.
Shalom, Rabbi Glaser. What a great simcha it is for all of us to be together at such a special occasion.
What is your opinion of the main message of Hanukkah?
It's an excellent question. We know that Hanukkah is a celebration of the great rededication of the Beis HaMikdash of the Holy Temple. It took place, of course, surrounding the miracle of that one pach shemen, of the flask of oil. How wonderful it was that little bit of oil lasted b'kedusha b'tahara, with great purity and holiness, for 8 days until new oil could be brought to the Beis HaMikdash. We know that the Chanukah menorah was a very special vessel in the Beis HaMikdash. We learn that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that was in charge of making sure that all of the kelim, all of the various vessels were in place. There were many different vessels. The menorah was one. However, we learn that Moshe Rabbeinu could not grasp, he could not understand how the menorah was supposed to be made. It was difficult for him until finally Hashem had to tell Moshe Rabbeinu, take the gold, throw it into the fire, and then the menorah emerged by itself. The Chavetz Chaim asked the question, why is it that some of the other kelim Moshe Rabbeinu was able to understand? The shulchan, the table, the aron. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu know how to do those? But when it came time for the menorah, he couldn't comprehend it, he couldn't understand it. The truth is that the aron represents the greatness of Torah, symbolic of the wisdom of Torah, of prophecy. We also know that the shulchan is symbolic. It alludes to parnasa, livelihood for all of us, also for food. Food has its source in the higher realms. Heavenly eating, for instance, eating on Shabbos, eating on Yom Tov, eating with a bracha, with a special blessing. That's a greatness. They're all great, all the kelim. But why is it that the menorah presented this great difficulty to Moshe? The Chavetz Chaim says, because the menorah represented nitzchius, eternity, the fact that the Jew is eternal. Moshe Rabbeinu was shown every generation. Moshe Rabbeinu was shown the Inquisition. Moshe Rabbeinu was shown, unfortunately, the Crusades. And then Siberia, in all the places where the Yidden, the Jewish people, are going to be persecuted, in Iran and in Syria, and in all different places that we were going to be expelled from Spain, and all the various things that we went through. Finally, the Holocaust, and then the terrorists, and then those wars against the Holy Land, and all that Klal Yisrael was going to have to endure. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, I can't understand it. How will it be possible that the Jew will survive? I can't comprehend it. Through all of that, through all the trials and tribulations, through all the persecutions, through all the slaughter, through all the blood that's going to be spilled, it's an impossibility. Hashem said, I will explain it. Take the gold, throw it into the fire, and the menorah emerged. Moshe Rabbeinu was taught a very valuable lesson, that it's going to be the fire that's going to refine the gold. It's going to be the fire that will perfect the gold. It's going to be the fire that's going to produce the gold. No matter how many times we were threatened, no matter how many times Klal Yisrael's existence was on shaky ground, we always emerged victorious. We always emerged stronger than before. We went from the Holocaust. We marched from the ashes. We went and built up Eretz Yisrael. We went all over the world and built up all the things that were destroyed, the great yeshivas and the great centers. All of it was rebuilt. We emerged a stronger people. It was going to be the fire that was going to cause us to become even greater. And that was the lesson that Moshe Rabbeinu was taught by Hashem Yisbarach. How interesting it is that Aaron HaKohen, Aaron, he complained. Why did he complain? Because all the Nesiim had a special part. They had special korbanos, special sacrifices that they took part in. However, his shevet, and he himself, did not have a part. He said to Hashem, why are we left out? Why don't we also have this? Hashem said, I will give you something that is even greater, something that will always be around. You will light the menorah. You will have that privilege. The Mefarshim asked the question. We know that just like the korbanos, they stopped when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So too, the menorah was no longer lit. The Ramban tells us something very enlightening. It was talking about the Chanukah menorah. the Hanukkah menorah that would continue, the Chanukah that we would all continue to light for all the years, in the worst times and in the best times, that menorah that will continue to light ad bias goel, until the Redeemer will come. Aaron HaKohen was shown that that is the nitzchius, that is the eternity that we're all a part of, and that Aaron would have a special chelik in the lighting of that menorah. How unbelievable it is when we go to light the Hanukkah menorah, we realize it's just not lighting the menorah for today. It is lighting the light of Torah that has been in existence from the beginning of time, even before. It's the light of Torah that will continue to shine through our life. It's the light of Torah that Hidabroot spreads on every continent in such a special way, bringing everybody closer, Laviam Shabbat Shamayim, to their Father in heaven. That's what we celebrate when we light the menorah. Avraham Avinu said when he was about to go to the Akedah, to the sacrificing of Yitzchak, of Isaac, Va'ani va'anar nelcho ad ko. I and the young man will go until there. What does that mean? The great Skalena Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, said, Avram Avinu was saying, Va'ani va'anar nelcho ad ko. I and the young man, we're now going to do Akedas Yitzchak, the greatest sacrifice that anyone has ever been called on to do, the sacrifice of his own son. That inspiration, that rosham, that impression will be for all times, ad ko, until the 25th of Kislev, until the menorah is lit. From that point on, until Bias Mashiach, until Mashiach will come, it will be the light of menorah that will continue to shine the way for you and I. It was a few years ago in Eretz Yisrael. There was an international gathering of Holocaust survivors, of Sheres HaPleita Yidden. They all gathered together for the very first time. Many people that were pulled apart during the Holocaust, that were sent to different places after the Holocaust was over. They found each other for the first time. Best friends were united. Cousins were united. Uncles and aunts and people that had not seen each other for years and decades finally saw each other. Each day, it was unbelievable. The emotions ran so high. The crying and the laughing and the dancing and the singing was something otherworldly. And there were sessions that were held every day. On the very last night of the international gathering of Holocaust survivors, it was a special program. It took place in a huge stadium. All the survivors were together. The last part of the program were going to be individual survivors that were going to tell over stories of gvura, of great might, stories of people that stood up to the challenge, stories of people that were able to show superhuman koach, power and strength in the face of the greatest adversity, in the face of the greatest challenge. The last speaker, the last night, the last person to talk at the international gathering was a woman. She went up to the stage and the spotlight was on her. And she began to talk about her experience as an inmate in Auschwitz. She said that there was one night, freezing cold night, everybody was trying to sleep inside. In the middle of the night, they heard the whistle. The Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichron, began to sound off the whistle, and everybody knew as soon as that whistle sounded, everybody had to go outside for lineup and stand straight, even though they had thin garments on in the freezing cold winter temperatures. Each of them were freezing, but they had to stand straight. A Nazi commandant came, walked down the line of all the women, and each one, he would hurl an insult. Each one he would try to debase and degrade. That's how he got his great excitement and happiness. Well, there was one woman that he began to insult. And in fact, he began to insult the entire Jewish people. She couldn't take it. She couldn't stand there and listen. She gathered the spit in her mouth and spit directly onto the face of the Nazi commandant. Immediately, they blew the whistle. The dogs came, the siren went off. They dragged her away, never to be seen again. That was Gevurah. With that, the spotlight was turned off. The international gathering was over, maybe the only time that would happen in this world. And everyone was then to go home. All of a sudden, there was a scream, a shriek. The lights went up. The woman who had just spoken was standing, staring into the face of the woman that spit into the face of the Nazi commandant. That's the nitzchias of Klal Yisrael. That's the eternity of the Jewish people. That's the Hanukkah miracle.
Thank you, Rav Gav. Really appreciate it. And Rabbi Goldwasser for enlightening our Hanukkah with such inspirational words. It was great to be with you here and to sing and enjoy the spirit of this special festival. Stay with us. Good night to all of our viewers, and I welcome you to join us again tomorrow night. Happy Hanukkah.